Everyone. In this video, I want to talk about Xurrent, the ITSM platform Xurrent. And we're going to compare it to Cherwell and see some of the highlights that I think are worth showing on video as opposed to just talking about in the report that I'm in the process of writing. So if you're not aware, if you haven't been watching the channel, this is part of a series. I've been going through all of the ITSM vendors that I saw at Service Management World back at this point several months ago in Orlando at Service Management World 2024. There were 13 vendors, all of whom have very different ITSM offerings, and I wanted to go through each of them and see how they compared to Cherwell, not from a which one is better perspective, but from a will this feel familiar to you perspective. Because as we all know, Cherwell is going away at the end of 2026. You won't be able to use Cherwell anymore. So everybody who is currently on Cherwell has to move off to another vendor, either one of these 13 or one of the big ones that surprisingly wasn't at Service Management World. But I'm not talking about them because you probably already know all that you need to about those vendors and whether or not you're going to be considering them. So I wanted to give these 13 vendors, mostly smaller players, some of them newer to the market, some of them new to the North America market, an opportunity to be represented uh, against the big guys. And that new to the North America market is significant with today's platform, Xurrent. They actually used to be called For Me, and you'll actually see some of the For Me branding here and there. That's the number four and then ME. They're a European company, but now they're coming to the North American market. I have seen them around before, but they're making a concerted push into North America. And with that, they've rebranded as Xurrent, Xurrent. Now, if you want to see the entire report with all 13 vendors represented, actually it's going to be 10 because I haven't had a chance to see the other three quite yet. You can go to the link down in the description below. You can sign up to get a copy of the report, and there will also be a link to the playlist down there of all of the video reviews that I've done on all of these vendors. So let's talk about Xurrent. So, like I said, Xurrent used to be called For Me. Now they're called Xurrent. Xurrent.com is their website. You can see a bunch of information about them. They've got their standard marketing site. One of the cool things that they have is, of course, you can schedule a demo, talk with an expert, all the normal, get in the sales cycle sort of things. But they also have this training site, which is part documentation and part get a demo instance. So if you go all the way to the bottom and click this request one here link, you can actually get a training instance. It's a 7-day instance. It's basically a full Xurrent instance. It's not quite a demo or a trial instance. It really is designed for training. So they have this whole training site spelled out where you can go through specific workflows and learn specific things in the platform, which is pretty cool. For my purposes, I just signed up to get a training instance and then tried to log in to see what I could figure out, what was familiar to me, what jumped out as immediately obvious, what I needed some help with. And there definitely were some things that I needed a little bit of guidance with. But their sales folks are really helpful, pointing me in the right direction. They're the ones who actually pointed me to the training instance in the first place. Again, because their site is laid out a little bit differently um, than some of the other vendors that have a start a free trial, front and center, immediately obvious. But that should not be counted against them because they do still have a way to get basically a free trial, and it is pretty much full featured. So I'm actually going to show a bunch of different things. Two main things that I want to highlight. One is kind of represented by this screen. Now, this screen itself might be a little confusing when you look at it. Um, But if you watch some of the videos in the, welcome to your training instance email, there are some onboarding videos there. It mentions the distinction between these two kind of sections. You see there's some white space here, and that's actually intentional. So up at the top, we have what they call accounts. And these are like departments that provide services. So in a smaller scale situation, you might have one account for facilities and one account for IT and one account for HR. And that's basically a way for each of those departments to configure and define the services that they provide independently of everything else. So HR can make HR decisions in the platform and build it out the way they need to. They don't have to go, to IT to have IT build out HR system, right? So that kind of makes sense, right? HR is the experts on how they're providing services, so why not let HR configure these services that they're providing to the company? Especially since, as we'll see in a minute, Xurrent is not nearly as complex as Cherwell could get, right? Cherwell, if you're building out a one step, you might want some help if you're not used to thinking in programmatic terms, right? You might want help from someone in IT to help build that out. Xurrent, it's a little more straightforward. But that's basically the idea behind these accounts is the different departments that provide services. Not to be confused with, I believe they call these service providers, which are more like upstream service providers. So you can see here, like for me, the company that provides this platform, Amazon, Best IT, presumably an MSP or something like that. Some of these other platforms are basically systems that are integrated with Xurrent or that you have configured to be integrated with Xurrent to extend the capabilities of the platform. Um, and if you click on any of those, you get configuration options for that specific integration, essentially. But okay, that's great. Let's look at kind of what the agent experience looks like. So here we have Howard Tanner, who's kind of like an administrator in the platform. And I can log out, I can log into a different account. I can, I thought it was here. In some cases, there's a little drop down here that allows you to switch between the different accounts. So I've switched into the data center account. So you'll notice data center, data protection, and then Europe and North America stuff. So I'm in this data center account here. And basically, this inbox is all of the things that I need to deal with. Either my inbox, my team's inbox, uh, basically incidents with a um, a dashboard and all of the tickets. Now, I'm not going to go deep into all of this, but I do want to draw your attention to how you can configure um, some of the forms. So if we go into settings, we see settings broken down by category. We also see this list of all the different types of settings on the left-hand side. You can search if you can't find what you're looking for. We're going to look at UI extensions. And the reason that we're looking at UI extensions is not because this is necessarily anything specific to Xurrent that other platforms don't have, but because there's something that they added fairly recently that I think is worth noting. It's an indication of how they're thinking and their approach to their product roadmap and their interest in adding new features. So if you go to like request template new employee, we see you can see what it looks like. Right, employee details. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Uh, and we can see that there's some HTML that's been defined for this form. Now, if you're coming from a Cherwell background, the last thing you want to be doing is writing HTML. In Cherwell, it was all point and click. You didn't have to write HTML. There were ways you could write CSS, but here at least in the out-of-the-box content configuration, it looks like the way to define forms is by writing a bunch of HTML, which I don't even know where this is documented. I didn't go looking for it. And then JavaScript and CSS. Now, if you're coming from a ServiceNow background, that might not feel too weird. Obviously, HTML, you don't have to write HTML in ServiceNow. You can, but you don't have to. JavaScript obviously is the way to uh, make ServiceNow do certain things in the UI. Um, and I think you can write CSS in ServiceNow as well. Um, but this is all very code heavy. So wouldn't it be nice if there was a way to do like a no code sort of thing? Well, it turns out that there is. So let's create a request template. And here we have, let's give it a name. We have this box, use designer, which gives us a point and click and drag and drop uh, sort of interface to creating that form. So we don't have to write HTML. We don't have to write JavaScript. We don't have to write that CSS. It's all right here at our fingertips. We can configure all of these different options, which are very similar to what you had in Cherwell. And one of the things that I think is pretty cool, and again, Xurrent is not the only platform that has this, but uh, this does seem to be a trend in some of the modern ITSM platforms, is that you don't have to create a data structure, like a database table, and then expose those fields as form controls or form fields. They're kind of one to one. So if you add a field to this form, the platform takes care of how it's going to save it and how it's going to expose it to the rest of the system, which I think is pretty powerful, right? You only have to configure it in one place, and then it's immediately available everywhere else. You don't have to, again, create a database field and then expose it on a form as a control. Uh, Obviously, with Cherwell, there is some power, some additional power you can get by doing it the other way. Um, but I think if you're just thinking from the perspective of designing a form, being able to just add a field here, you could add a different type of field, checkbox, email, and it's immediately present, right? You don't have to worry about how it's going to get stored in the database. You just design your form and trust that the platform is going to save that information to the ticket behind the scenes. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought they did a really great job with this interface. Obviously, it's a little bit less discoverable than I would have hoped, um, but I imagine that this can only get better. It seems like they are really interested in making improvements to their interface, improvements to their feature set, um, and really they're aware of uh, what people were used to coming from Cherwell, and they're trying to build kind of to that. So if you're interested in checking out Xurrent, I definitely recommend that you do, especially if you're coming from a background where you were using Cherwell for many different departments with multiple different needs. If you were using Cherwell for IT and facilities and HR and you know ad departments, check out Xurrent. I think you might find some features that are really appealing to you. So that's going to do it for this video. Again, if you want to see the full report, go check the link in the description. Um, and if you have questions about Xurrent specifically, I might not be able to answer them. If I can, I will. But if I can't, I will find you the right person to answer those questions. Either send you to the sales folks or hook you up with a partner who's working with Xurrent. Um, and feel free to leave those down in the description below or email me directly. Again, you can find my contact information down in the video description. You can schedule some time with me if you're interested in talking about your future ITSM needs. And as of right now, this is the final video in this series, both on the playlist and chronologically. This just happened to be the last one I was recording. Uh, so if you want to check all of those videos out, check the link to the playlist down in the video description. And there will probably be another video kind of recapping the whole thing. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.